Well, we have that problem because we're called the Boston Children's Museum.
And that's what everybody thinks, right?
And that's what everybody
So
thinks,
it's okay to
right?
let your kids go have
So
fun,
it's
and then
okay to
you
let
can
your
just
kids go have fun, and then you
friends.
can just talk to your friends or make phone calls or answer your
I know,
email.
that's a tough one.
I know, it's a tough one.
I think it goes to everything you do has to communicate. It's modeling. So everything you do communicates that this is something you do together. And like a Museum of Modern Art, they have family and kids programs. So they make a distinction just on the website that there are family and there are kids programs. So the kids programs may or may not require an adult to stay with them, but they're clearly this is for the kid.
I like that, the idea of family.
I like that. The idea of using the word family in a very intentional way like that is
And so
really a
when
good
they have
idea.
a family program, they make it very clear from, if you go on their website, they have pictures of kids and, you know, adult and child on the floor
They're
doing
adult,
something.
they're
or
grown up,
look,
yes.
so all of their visuals are strong, and we don't think about them clearly enough. I think, especially, I just laugh at art museums. They're supposed to be visual institutions, and they're not doing this kind of thinking, and it just frustrates me. But I just really applaud MoMA in that sense of and it's intentional. I mean, I've talked with the manager of the programs, and it's very intentional. They choose those pictures personally. So if you go on and you Google images and you say families in museums or families in art museums, I get very tight. And I see lots of these where kids are in the front, families are in the back. It's that constant double circle. And then you come upon these occasional ones like MoMA's and others that really show you exactly what we want you to experience. So it's from that point, then on their website, they also are very clear about saying something very quickly. This is something where adults and children do things together. Be prepared to sit on the floor. Be prepared to, so they kind of tell you ahead of time on the website what to prepare for. So it's those advanced organizers, early and often, that you send off to people indirectly and directly. And then when they're at the program, the first thing they do is to have them work together. The families work together. They don't separate them out, having the kids come forward and the adults back. And people say, well, the kids can't see. And I said, but are you just giving a tour? It's like you're having a program, and you've already built it as family, so you must keep modeling that. And they have very little of that sage on the stage, person in the front talking to people. They almost never do that. They train their facilitators to wander around, to stand in the back, to not create a central, if there is a central focus, it's the object or the exhibit. It's the thing I want you to pay attention to, not the person.
I think one place in children's museums you see this a lot is in music and movement, which everybody, all children's museums encourage or go out and purchase or get music and movement going in the museum, right? And you'll see the kids up with the entertainer or the musician, and then parents in the seats behind it, to your point, right? So we also work very hard to make sure that anybody who's bringing programming into the museum understands that 50% of our visitors are adults. That's a message that goes out loud and clear to all our frontline staff, to everybody working in the museum. 50% of who walks in here are grown-ups. So in order for everybody to be happy and the grown-up to come back again, everybody has to have a good experience, especially the grown-ups, so that they feel like they got their $16 worth and they'll come back again. And so the whole experience has to appeal to them as well. So we'll really get those musicians to make sure that they invite adults up, everybody can dance, they hand out maracas to all the adults as well as the kids, that we have plenty of musical instruments to play with, that the dancing can happen with everybody. And certainly lots of adults are very conscious and conscientious about making sure kids are front and center and they're having the best experience. But I have definitely seen some moms and dads want to rock and roll in those places, right? So I think that's another one where you have to make sure that the message gets out to everybody that comes into the museum who's bringing activities or bringing programming, and your frontline staff as well. But I think sometimes parents really need an invitation. They need a very intentional
I do think that
articulated
there's
invitation
probably
to
this
join.
preconception
And
that
I
if
don't
I'm
think
going to
anybody
a
should
family
underestimate
program,
that. I
I'm
mean,
going
the
to choose
power
a
of
family
saying,
program that's
come on, Mom,
interesting
you
to the
can sit down too,
child or
or
children I'm
handing
bringing.
her a piece of
So
the
it
dress
is
to express, you
child
know, a hat or a
focused
boa
in that
or a
sense, because
something.
we know if the child's unhappy,
is
everybody's
really
unhappy. So if the child's
legit
bored, and I
way
think
to
sometimes in
get
art museums
the
that's a
adults to
struggle
play.
because the parents
So,
want to
for
come
example,
to
the
the art
most
museum,
recent thing we did in
but
Peeps World,
the
which is
child
our
may have trouble
science
slowing down, and so
exhibit
anything
that
they'll
is
say to me,
a lot of water,
anything you can get to help me slow my
is
child
we
down,
bought
I will
adult-size
so that's where any
aprons,
little
adult
things they can
size
take into the galleries,
smocks, so
something,
that we used to only have
basic
ones for
little
kids.
scavenger hunt
Now we have
type
adult-size
things, just
smocks, and I
something
can't tell you,
to slow
I've
the
seen
kids
plenty
down
of parents put
so
them
the
on and
adults
dive
can
right
look,
in.
and then the kids will
Because kids
eventually
are bound
find
to get
something
wet
they
in there.
enjoy,
They just have a
but
blast,
they will
and the
put on
water
roller
really
skates
does
very
go
quickly
everywhere.
and just
So
shoot
in
through
that
the
exhibit
place.
in particular, you saw
I
parents
think in
stand
a
back
children's museum,
and
it's
make
so
sure they had an
geared
extra
to
pair of clothes for the
entertaining the
kids.
children that you have
But
sort
they
of the
don't
reverse
generally
problem in
tend
some
to
ways
roll up their
to
sleeves
like
and get in.
get the parents
And
engaged,
the other
because
day,
when
I
I've
saw
taken
that
kids to
happening more.
children's museums,
So
there
I
are
think
times
let's
where I'm
not
just
forget
like,
about being very
think I'm going to
basic
just fall asleep, or
and
I'm not
providing
bored
an
particularly, but I'm
invitation
kind of
that
done
helps
because
people
there's
feel really
I've done
comfortable.
nothing. That's the invisible pedagogy,
Right?
Right? It was like we want everybody, but we're not going to. We're going to adults
Not
have
going
to
to really
get wet.
tell you about it,
Right.
Or
And-
we don't tell you about it.
Right, and just having them hang there, that's all you need to say.
That's
Because I
right.
see the bigs, I have the
They
littles.
do.
It's like what we found when we were watching the videos and the parents weren't engaging, and we looked, well, look, the facilitator only made eye contact with the kids. And as they came around, the kids came around, and then at the last second, she flicks her eyes just a little bit. It wasn't a mean thing, she was lovely, she was great, but she just looked back and she said, you can come too.
Right.
You know, which was not a, all right, everybody move along kind of a thing. So
Right.
I think it's that you have to send these visual and verbal clarity, yes, an invitation. I think adults, most of them, will hang back because they don't want to do something wrong. They don't want to impose. They don't want to be pushy. There's always the helicopter parents that, you know, push in there and you want them to sit down. But for the most part, I think they're in the minority. I think most parents are being very respectful. I've turned this over to you. You're the expert. I'm not going to get out in your
right.
space. So we have to very consciously invite them more than the adults and then the children.
I also think adults forget how to play.
Yes.
It's really simple like that. They forget their playful self. And when you can invite them to come and play with a cardboard box or some stuff. I mean, there are many times when I will create some kind of an obstacle course on the third floor of the museum in that bridge area that's just wide open hallway kind of, right? There's a bunch of yoga mats and cones and hula hoops and balls and I don't know, whatever else I can find, little three-wheely things you can sit on and ride through, and a couple of big cardboard boxes. Oftentimes kids will come up there and look at it and go, what is that? And I'll say, well, what do you think it is? I don't know. Dora the Explorer doesn't have one of those. I'm like, okay, that's all you watch on TV is Dora the Explorer. You've never seen this before. And before you know it, oftentimes an adult will come up and just start kicking the ball or picking up the hula hoop and saying, oh, I haven't done this in years, and start doing the hula hoop. Or if I pick up the hula hoop and start hula hooping, or sitting on the little three-wheelie thing, or go down to the box and turn it so that I will say something like, can you kick the ball in the box? You know, just a little bit of cue like that will really help adults oftentimes to find that little playful self. And that actually pulls them right in without much. And before you know it, you've got kids and families in the obstacle course creating their own family game or challenging another family that they're visiting with or something fun. But you have to kind of get, there's a provocation or a prompt or a little something or a little role modeling. It takes something, I don't know, we could call that a something, you know? You guys could make up the name for it. You know, it is a prompt or a provocation to get involved.
In some ways, it's the invitation,
The
whether it's a
invitation,
direct
right.
invitation
It
or
could be
it's
an
like,
invitation. That's a nice way
oh,
to.
there's a room full of balloons.
Right.
You know,
Come on in.
Who needs much more of an invitation than a room
Right.
full of balloons?
So it might be a visual thing like that, and it might be an articulated invite. It could be signage.
Could be
It
the
could
big,
be a
the
photo.
big aprons versus the small aprons.
Right.
Kind of a
It
thing.
could be any kind of documentation of this is an invitation for you to play.
So it's our job as designers and facilitators to look at each part of a program or an exhibit space or whatever we're looking at and say, where can I add an invitation
I think
or a
so.
provocation?
I think so.
And then as a facilitator, be prepared with sort of an arsenal of those invitations
Right.
that you could use.
And remember that word you're using is facilitate.
Yes.
Being a facilitator. That's not being the sage on the stage. That is actually being somebody who will help make it happen. That's important work.